everybody, how are you guys doing today? My name is Nick, otherwise known here as Avialence, and today we're going to be taking a look at Lords of the Fallen. This is an action RPG made by CI Games, which is a Polish studio, and it is published by Bandai Namco, which I think is appropriate because this is very similar to Dark Souls in many ways, namely the gameplay. Now, Lords of the Fallen is available on Xbox One, PS4, and PC. I've been told that you really need to buy the PC version of the game. Unfortunately, I did not hear this before buying the Xbox One version of the game. So I ended up going ahead, opening it, starting to play it, and then I watched some videos here on YouTube from Force Strategy Gaming, who said you should probably buy it on the PC. And that's unfortunate, but, you know, the main reason behind that is just for frame issues. There's a couple points in the game where the frame rate will drop. So if you guys have a decent PC, I highly recommend picking it up on the PC because it does seem to run a lot smoother and a lot better on some of the high-intensity cutscenes. So what I want to do today, is just give you guys a brief introduction to Lords of the Fallen. It's a very interesting game set in a cool-looking universe that I'm still trying to learn and explore, right? But the first step you're going to go through is character creation. Now, with character creation, you're going to be looking at a couple different classes here. Now, you'll be able to develop a class based off of what you choose. One of the biggest things here is the type of class that you can go with. So there's three options, and basically you're going to pick a magic style, which is those three options. Then you're going to pick an armor style. And based on your magic, armor, let's call it equipment, right? Your magic and equipment style that you choose, it'll develop a class for you. So there's three types of magic here. You have Solace, which is defensive and Magicka centered, right? You've got Deception, which is stealth and energy centered, and then you've got Brawling, which is attack and health centered, right? So you get to pick one of these trees. Now, the cool thing about this is you will eventually unlock all three trees. There is a New Game Plus and a New Game Plus Plus, and each time you go through a new game, you will be able to gain an additional tree. Now, I haven't gone too far into the game. I've only played about 4 to 5 hours on two separate characters, but I've been told there's actually a decisive plot point which, explains the entire thing. So it's interesting that that's in there, and I'm kind of curious how that plays out. I haven't been too big of a fan of the story so far, but, we'll see how it goes. Now, after you go ahead and pick a specific magic tree, right, you're going to go ahead and pick your equipment. Now, again, you'll have three options. You've got the medium armor, the light armor, and the heavy armor. So essentially, you're looking at a warrior, cleric, and then rogue, right? Rogue's going to give you dual daggers. You'll also get a small buckler shield, while the cleric's going to give you a small kite shield, a giant hammer. It's a named hammer, too. I'm not sure if you can find it later in the game. And then a set of medium armor, which, in my opinion, looks the best. It kind of looks like the Tier 2 Judgment from World of Warcraft, which is really neat. And then you also have the warrior, which is a set of heavy armor with a kite shield and a steel sword. Now, preferably, I love warrior. Like, that's the one I've built on both of my characters. I've done a Solace magic tree, which is the Magicka regen protection type tree, right, with heavy armor and heavy equipment, which has made me into a paladin. And then I've also done warrior, which is what you guys are going to see in this video, where it's straight up warrior, heavy armor with the brawling tree, right? Now, the cool thing is, based on the tree you choose and the equipment you choose, it will generate a class for you. I've seen things like paladin, executioner, rogue, brawler, assassin, things of that nature. It's actually really cool how it does do that for you. Now, when you finally do get into the game, unfortunately, you are unable to customize the main character, the main character being Harkin. So Harkin is going to be your main character. And what I've done here is skip through the cutscenes. There are two pretty epic cutscenes, but I don't want to ruin those for you guys. If you're interested in checking them out here on YouTube, there's tons of Let's Plays out for this game already. Go check it out there. That's not what we're really doing here, right? So once you get into the game, the first thing that I noticed about it is the tutorial. It's actually really nice. Now, for those of you that have played Dark Souls 1 and Dark Souls 2, there isn't much of a tutorial to the game, right? It's like, hey, this is how you attack, this is how you block, this is how you shoot an arrow, this is how you pick up gear, go kill things, right? And it's got a very hardcore learning curve. That's what a lot of people love about Dark Souls, and that's fine. But what this game does is showcases to you how combat works. And, granted, it's not going to hold your hand. It's extremely quick, and you'll be able to finish the segment within the first 20 minutes of the game, and that's it. It's not going to explain much else to you. Now, when you do get into the game, you will first fight against one of these Rogar Lords. These are the main enemy that are in the game, and while doing so, the one thing I appreciated is these slow-motion combat sequences. So it'll tell you how to block, how to dodge, how to slash, how to heavy slash, and how to do various special attacks. and it does slow down time to the point where you can read the tooltip and then perform the attack. As you're going through this area too, you'll notice that it looks very similar to Diablo, which is something I really liked. The atmosphere of this game is gorgeous, and the way that it handles itself is nice too. It has that very dark, horror-esque feel with that medieval time period feel in it as well, so it does feel like Diablo 3, and immediately while walking through this monastery, which, again, the irony, right? I was actually really enjoying it because I felt like I was playing a third-person action RPG that was Diablo, which I thought was really cool. So after going ahead and going through that tutorial, there's a couple different areas you may want to go ahead and explore. One thing here is you're fighting some crazy enemy that actually cannot see you, but they can hear you. And I thought this was an interesting mechanic. So you can actually sneak up behind them if you do not sprint or run, especially with the heavy plate armor on. That can have a big effect. And then perform a backstab. Now the backstab, 100% same thing out of Dark Souls, does a lot of extra damage, and you're able to time up attacks as well to chain your attacks together. Now I thought this feature was actually really cool, and I've been working on mastering it. But what happens here is if you chain your attacks together, there will be a reduced energy cost, which the energy bar is on the lower left hand corner of the screen. It's the yellow bar. Think of it like your stamina in Dark Souls, right? So you do have a reduced cost based on how you perform in combat, which I think is really neat. There's a lot of other mechanics in this game that pull directly off of Dark Souls. For example, after you go ahead and collect XP is what they call it. Think of your XP as souls, right? So the more XP you collect, the more you can level up your character. But the interesting thing they did here is it has a loot modifier in it, which this is what I really appreciate about the game, and I'm trying to understand because I don't know how great of an effect it has on the game, right? So the more XP I carry, the better chance I have at rarer loot drops. Now, this can be from chests, or this can be from actual characters. With the chests, I'm not 100% sure, but I have tested it with characters, and it does seem to be that way. So NPCs and stuff, and the NPC characters, that you're going to be killing, the more XP you have, the higher the chances for a drop. Now, one thing I've noticed, too, in the chests is I did get legendary sets of armor, which are the purple, level sets of armor, if I did have more XP, whereas previously I did not. So I found that kind of interesting. I haven't played enough of the game to fully test that theory, but it's neat. Now, let's say you don't want to, save around your XP and walk around, right? Well, you can actually bank it. So there's going to be these shards that are scattered throughout the world, and these are technically save points. They're really, really nice compared to Dark Souls 2 because these save points are typically right after a boss or a difficult encounter, and then you're good, you're done, and you aren't going to have to go back and fight through a bunch of mobs again. But the cool thing about these save points is they do restore your potion, right? So your potions are essentially going to be your Estus flask. There's really no other way of saying that. But your potions, actually, the starting value can be changed based on the character archetype you choose. So as a warrior, I only was able to have 2 potions, 3 once I talked to Caslow, and then I ended up giving one of those away. But these shards have smaller shards floating around them, and these are actually the amount of potions they can restore to you. So you can't constantly run back to a save point and regen potions like you could in Dark Souls. You only have, 4 potions a save point, or 2 potions a save point, depending on where the save point is and what you're going to be able to find there. Now, at these save points, like I was saying with XP, you can bank your XP. You do this by holding the left or right trigger on the Xbox One, and this will bank XP either into attribute points, which are used to increase your carrying capacity, your damage, things of that nature, or you can also bank them into your spell points, which are used to unlock spells and improve the various spells that you will unlock throughout the course of the game. It's a very, very interesting concept, and it's something that I really am becoming a fan of. Granted, I haven't unlocked a lot of spells yet on the new warrior character I'm rolling with. Some of the spells are pretty nifty, like I can summon a decoy, for example, right? And that decoy will have enemies attack it. But, this decoy will also slowly heal up my health, which I think is really neat too. So there's a lot of elements in there that make for a very interesting gameplay mechanic, right? The one thing I really do appreciate about this game as well are the boss fights. So I've gone through 3 boss fights so far, and I've heard that after the 4th boss fight, it does get more difficult. The first couple boss fights were a bit of a pushover, nothing too crazy, and after I figured out their move patterns, I was able to get through them pretty quickly. The boss fight you guys are actually seeing now is the first boss fight, which I thought was cool that they throw you in there 15 minutes into the game, right? And it's not easy, the first time you do it. But, the cool thing about this, too, is if you look at the boss's health bar, he actually has phase indicators. So there are various phase indicators on these bosses. Now these phase indicators, as you tick down their health, will change the mechanics of said boss, which is really neat. So again, it's trying to be a Dark Souls experience, but make it easier on the player the first time around. Now, granted, you can still die extremely fast. You know, there's a couple times where I've totally screwed up and just been slaughtered by a couple regular mobs. It happens, and that's exactly how it works, right? But it is cool nonetheless that it does kind of work to hold your hand a little bit at the get-go. Now, after the 4th boss again, which is what I'm actually working on now, I can tell you guys, it does not hold your hand and you can get killed very quickly. Now, you know, XP, right? What happens if you die? Well, you will have a ghost, and this ghost will remain for a certain amount of time, so you do want to go reclaim your XP, similar to reclaiming your souls in Dark Souls. If you do die twice, it is done and done. Now, another cool element here after the boss fight, and I think this is the last thing I'm really going to touch on, is the fact that there's these small challenge portals, right? And these challenge portals are scattered all over the world, and they're linked to specific bosses or high-level opponent encounters. So these specific portals are challenges, and all you're going to do is after you kill a certain boss, you can go back to said portal, go in and try to complete a physical challenge or a magic challenge, or, you know, honestly, some of them have been puzzles for me, and these will reward you with high-end loot that you can then bring in and use in the world. It's a really neat system, and I really appreciate it, you know? And on that end, too, I mean, there's a lot of great gear in this game. A lot of the gear does feel similar to something you'd see in World of Warcraft or a Diablo-esque game. Almost a combination of them, but the loot does look good, especially the weapons. Now, each of these weapons has, you know, a unique set of animations for the most part. You know, staves are going to do a specific thing, swords are going to do a specific things, and different swords actually have different executions, which I think is really cool. Now, a lot of the bosses are actually guaranteed to drop one piece of gear from the boss encounter as well. So this first guy, this first warden, right, actually drops his sword, and depending on how you complete the encounter, you actually will have a chance to get the sword exactly how the boss has it. So if you, I've heard rather, I don't really know if this is the absolute truth because I haven't been able to do it myself yet, but I've heard that if you beat the first warden without taking any damage from him, you actually get his flame sword with the flame enchantment on it. So it is an extremely powerful sword. All in all, guys, I'm really enjoying Lords of the Fallen so far, right? The way it's telling its lore is similar to Diablo mixed with Dark Souls. While the story isn't all there, and I don't quite like the cutscenes as much as I thought I would, it's still a very interesting game, and the gameplay is phenomenal. So if you guys are looking for another Dark Souls-esque game that's not as difficult from the get-go and doesn't feature multiplayer, Lords of the Fallen is something definitely worth checking out. Again, I would recommend picking it up on PC based on what my friend recommendations have been, right? It does run a little bit better on the PC, but if you do have a console, Xbox One or PS4, it's still a very enjoyable experience, and I'm loving the hell out of this game. So I'm probably going to go on and make another character, but like I said, this was just a brief introduction to the game. So if you guys want to see more Lords of the Fallen, maybe some free roam gameplay or just some roam gameplay here on the channel, feel free to let me know. I'll probably release another video or two over the next few days on the game because I am playing it so much and enjoying it so much. But anyway, guys, that's going to be a wrap for the video here covering Lords of the Fallen. I hope you guys enjoyed this brief introduction to the game, and if you have any questions about the game, feel free to let me know in the comments below. My name is Nick, otherwise known here as Avialence, and if you had a good time with the video, hit that like button, and feel free to subscribe to this channel for gameplay commentary on the latest games in the industry. Thanks for watching, guys, and I'll talk to you in the next video.